I hadn't planned to attend a family dinner that night. I told Camille as much 3 days before when she handed me the embossed menu card, with a look that was more obligation than invitation. "It's just dinner," she said, brushing lint from her blazer, not even looking at me. But that was the problem. Nothing was ever just anything with her family. A simple dinner meant a gauntlet of veiled insults, sideways glances, and polite laughter that felt like it had been pre-recorded. I'd endured it for years, smiling through it all, like some accessory she wore when it served her, but this time was different. Because I'd paid for the dinner, and it wasn't the kind of place you stumbled into with coupons or birthday rewards. It was high-end, exclusive, every inch of its private dining suite whispered old money. And polished secrets I'd reserved it weeks in advance. Not because I was feeling generous, but because part of me wanted to see them squirm. That silent, bitter curiosity in me wanted to know how they'd act when I showed up. Not begging, not trying, just there, present, and UMBOT. Camille had asked me to dress well, for appearances. I wore the navy suit she once said made me look too serious. Perfect. The doorman greeted me like I belonged, like he didn't know what kind of war I was walking into. And I appreciated that. The air inside was heavy with truffle oil, aged wine, and tension. They were already seated when I arrived. Camille, her father Raymond, at the head of the table, her mother Lena across from him, and her sister Elise, with that smug little smirk she wore like perfume. I took the empty seat next to Camille without asking. No one acknowledged me, not really. Her mother gave a thin smile. Elise scrolled her phone like I hadn't just walked in. Raymond didn't even blink. I poured myself water, calmly, like I wasn't a ghost in their little curated dinner scene. "You're late," Camille muttered under her breath, eyes forward and overdressed. "I paid," I replied, equally quiet. "Figured I'd get my money's worth." Her jaw tightened. But she said nothing else. The waiter brought appetizers, scallops with caviar on gold-rimmed plates. And they all acted like nothing was wrong. Elise talked about her influencer deal. Lena raved about a new wine club. Raymond criticized a senator like he'd played poker with him the night before. It was all so performative. I could have sworn someone had cued the lines. I chewed my food slowly, responding when necessary. But mostly, I just watched. Camille laughed at her father's jokes, leaned into the role of perfect daughter. I remember when that smile used to be reserved for me. Before status and optics swallowed whatever was left of us. The wine flowed faster than the conversation, and I began to notice the flickers, tight glances between Camille and Elise. The way Lena seemed more tense than usual. Something was coming. I didn't know what, not yet. But the undercurrent was there. It always is, right before a wave crashes. "How's work?" Elise asked, eyes gleaming, fork poised. "You still doing that business consulting thing?" "That thing," I said smoothly. "Just funded this dinner. But yes, still doing quite well." "Oh," she said, tone dipped in sarcasm. "Nice to hear. I just thought maybe you'd moved on to something more stable." Camille chuckled softly. I looked directly at Elise, smiled. "Stability is overrated." "Leverage, though, that lasts," her expression faltered. "Just long enough to satisfy something small and spiteful." In me. Raymond finally looked my way. "Only to reach for the wine, as long as you're not using Camille's money for these little business ventures of yours," he said almost casually. Camille didn't defend me, of course not. That would have been too much like partnership. "Of course not," I said. "I've got my own portfolio. You'd be surprised how profitable it is, not to rely on handouts." Raymond grunted, uninterested. Camille turned toward me, face pleasant, voice low. "Just don't make a scene tonight." "Okay, it's important." "To who?" I asked. "Them or you?" She didn't answer. Instead, she picked up her wine glass, glanced at the others, then checked her reflection in the back of her spoon. I watched her, and for a moment, I didn't recognize the woman beside me. Somewhere along the line, Camille stopped being mine, and maybe I stopped being hers too, but there was no sadness in that realization. Only clarity. I leaned back, let the sound of cutlery and fake laughter fill the space. I had thought seeing their faces when I arrived would bring satisfaction, but it didn't. It felt quiet, like standing in a room that used to echo with your voice, but now held only dust and shadows. Still, I was here, part of the play. At least for now. And if I had to endure one more cold, calculated evening with this family, I'd do it my way. On my terms. I signaled for the waiter, asked for another glass of Malbec, and let the next course arrive. It would be the last dinner I attended like this, because whether they knew it yet or not, everything was about to change. I said, just not from the people you think. See, while you were planning spa weekends, and Elise was trying to become the face of mineral water, I was having coffee with your Uncle Morris. Every other Tuesday. Raymond's jaw clenched. He was bitter. He didn't have the stomach for real business. True, I said. But he had enough shares, and just enough resentment, to listen. And after a few conversations, he agreed to a discreet transfer of voting rights. From there, it was a chain reaction. Victor was looking to retire to Italy. Elise, the Geneva one, wanted out after the last quarterly disaster. That was temporary. Raymond snapped. Not to them, I said. To them, it was a wake-up call, one that made my offer all the more appealing. Above market, fast exit, zero drama. Lena looked between us like she'd entered a dream halfway through, and couldn't find the plot. But what would you even want with the company? She asked. You're not family. Exactly, I replied. I don't owe anyone here loyalty out of blood, which means I can run the company cleanly, efficiently, and, without favoritism, no backroom deals, no last name privileges, just results. Camille looked like she wanted to stand again, to reclaim the spotlight. You're bluffing. Even if you have shares, you can't do anything with them unless ... Unless I have controlling interest, I interrupted, which I do. Raymond narrowed his eyes. You expect us to believe you hold over 51%? Raymond, I said with a smile, I don't expect anything. I have the documents. I reached into my inner jacket pocket and pulled out a slim envelope. Camille's eyes followed it like it was a gun. I placed it gently on the table beside my plate. That, I said, is a summary of holdings, notarized with full transfer. Authorizations from every shareholder who sold to me. You're welcome to have your lawyers verify it. In fact, I encourage it. Raymond's fingers twitched like he wanted to snatch it, tear it apart, but he didn't move. Instead, he leaned back slowly, like someone trying not to show they'd just been punched in the gut. I don't understand, Lena whispered. How could this happen?